Hi, I'm Ron, and this is my damn show. Let's get into it.
Absolutely cuckoo crazy. Look,
we know there's a second strike. Why didn't either one of those men say, we're going to look into this? Something like that should never happen in an engagement by the United States military. Why?
Abby, I can't even understand any of this Venezuela thing. To me, it is absolutely cuckoo crazy. Look,
if you are trying to keep up with the Trump administration's deflections, denials, and distancing from a potential war crime, here is a short version for you. First, it didn't happen. Fine, it happened. But it was legal. So legal, in fact, that here's a turtle meme from a children's book. Oh, and the president didn't know. But if he had known, he wouldn't have approved.
Concerned, I didn't, I still haven't gotten a lot of information because I rely on Pete. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved.
So, talk to Pete. Pete says he didn't order it. An admiral did. And then, after he bragged about watching the first strike, Pete now says he wasn't in the room for the second strike. Pete didn't see the survivors either. But whatever happened, whoever ordered it, all legal. And anyone who asks questions, well, you're an idiot in air conditioning.
I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire and smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war.
Margaret Donovan, a former JAG officer, joins us in our fifth seat. There's a lot of deflection going on there, just his body language as he talks about this. And then he uses the term fog of war as if that absolves you from responsibility, does it?
No, listen, it is September 2nd. This is the opening strike on a highly controversial air campaign that has never really been done before by the American military. And you have the Secretary of Defense saying that he didn't stick around for the whole strike. He had a meeting to go to, and he couldn't see the entire thing through. You were the Secretary of Defense. You can push the meeting, and you can stay for the strike, because lo and behold, conveniently, at the very moment that he walks out, apparently a war crime occurs. So everything that he just said there in those clips is fascinating. First of all, any, defense or other narrative that this boat was still operable is gone, because Secretary Hegseth just said it was on fire. And you have the President of the United States saying something that you would expect the President of the United States to say, which is that he's relying on his Secretary of Defense for this information. Well, guess what? Pete Hegseth doesn't have that information for you because he walked out of the room. And now there's a 4-star general with a highly respectable career in the special operations community who's going to be left holding the bag.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like they really are throwing him under the bus. Let me just read what George Will, a conservative columnist, said about this whole thing. He says, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth seems to be a war criminal without a war, an interesting achievement. The killing of the survivors by this moral slum of an administration should nauseate Americans. A nation incapable of shame is dangerous, not least to itself. I would have expected, despite there's all this back and forth about who ordered it, who didn't. Let's put all that aside. They're in that room. They're asked about it. We know there's a second strike. Why didn't either one of those men say, we're going to look into this? Something like that should never happen in an engagement by the United States military. Why?
Abby, I can't even understand any of this Venezuela thing. To me, it is absolutely cuckoo crazy. Look, Nicolás Maduro and Hugo Chavez before him are corrupt, sadistic, cruel, thieves, authoritarian, anti-American son of a bitch. And what Donald Trump is doing is attempting regime change. I will be incredibly happy, elated, if Nicolás Maduro goes away. I don't care which way. But the things that Donald Trump is claiming regarding Venezuela, that they are flooding the U.S. with drugs, that simply is not true. The fentanyl that is killing all of these Americans is coming through Mexico. The people that the preferred route for drug dealers is through the Pacific and then through Central America, including the country of Honduras, where he just pardoned the former president that did flood American streets with cocaine that killed thousands and thousands of Americans. And then, he's claiming that Venezuela opened up prisons and insane asylums and released all these people into the United States. That actually did happen. It happened in 1980 in Cuba, and we all saw it happen. I was in Miami when the Mariel boat lift happened. There is zero evidence that has happened in Venezuela. What happens? He wants to do regime change. He wants his Panama with Noriega. He wants his Grenada moment like Ronald Reagan did. But he can't say that it's regime change. One, because it's highly unpopular with the American people. And because, two, it would require the authorization of Congress.
So when Abby...
Right? We're not even on land yet, and we've already got a war crime,
Like Pete Hegseth, who doesn't know what he's doing, who's a wannabe tough guy, and who also is just like his boss, Donald Trump, and not ever accepting any blame.
Operationally, right? We're not even on land yet, and we've already got a war crime, national embarrassment on our hands. We haven't even proceeded with the actual land operation.
And how much of the U.S. Navy arsenal is off the coast of Venezuela
absolutely,
right now?
for some kilos of cocaine? Give me a break.
Batia, I'd raised this yesterday. I think one of the big question marks here is this a pretext for regime change? And if it is, what is our level of engagement going to be in that? And should they be transparent about it? I think those are really important questions for Americans who care. If they're on those battleships in the Caribbean, if they are living, there are many Americans in the Caribbean who could be, in the area, as Trump has said, the airspace around Venezuela is closed. So don't we deserve answers on some of those things? Even on a basic level, don't we deserve answers about who these men were? If he knew exactly what they were and what they were doing, don't we deserve answers about that?
I definitely want to know if regime change is happening, and I will be very angry if it happens and I was not informed. So the answer to all those questions, I always want more information. But I feel like we're in the midst of another Russiagate hoax. There was a group of Democrats who said you can refuse illegal orders, and now they are out there in search of a war crime, and there absolutely isn't one. So what happened was the DOJ's Office of Legal Counsel issued a classified legal opinion authorizing these U.S. military strikes. At that point, the Department of, I guess I have to call it War, issued the directive that we were going to start hitting them. At that point, Admiral Bradley gave the order for the first strike. Pete Hegseth watched it. The boat caught fire. Now, in order to establish that a war crime happened, we have to know that the boat was completely destroyed. The military action, which was authorized by the DOJ under Article 2 powers, which Trump has the legal right to issue, that boat was destroyed, was no longer a threat, and that there were two people clinging to it for life who were also no longer a threat. We do not know that yet.
You don't really need to know that.
I tend to disagree. We do have a JAG lawyer who has a lot of experience with military strikes.
Please tell me, what am I getting
I think it's a really
because if the boat was only disabled and not destroyed, it is still a legitimate military target.
Hold on. Here's the main issue. Is it legal when if there are survivors clinging to whatever? Is it legal to then strike them again? And maybe we don't know the full answer to that question, but that is the central issue here.
Can I just?
That's the central issue.
The question is not actually that. The question is
the question is actually that.
Because the whole thing hangs on whether the boat is still a military target or not.
The issue when it comes to
the legality
on
it when they hit it the first time.
The issue when it comes to the legality of the second strike, not the first one.
It's not whether there are people there.
It is
whether it's still a legitimate target.
No. It's what happens to survivors.
No, it's not.
We don't know. I think I'm going to acknowledge that there are things about this that we don't know. That we don't know where they were, what was the state of the boat, all that stuff. Sure, we don't know who gave the order, but I do think that is the central question, Margaret, that needs to be answered.
The question is not the existence of the survivors; it's whether the boat is still a legitimate military target.
Margaret, hold on a second.
I want Margaret to weigh in on this.
That's simply not true. Look, because you cannot shoot survivors of a shipwreck that are clinging on for dear life in the middle of the ocean.
You're using the word shipwreck to hide the distinction that I am
I'll use Secretary Hegseth's word.
Shipwreck is in the red.
Yes, but I'm saying the whole point here is it still a legitimate target or not. If they can get on that debris and call for the rest of the narco terrorists to show up and save them, it is still a legitimate military target.
Okay, I'm going to defer to the expert here. Go ahead,
factually,
Margaret.
this just doesn't pass the laugh test. You're talking about two people stranded in the middle of the ocean, and you think we're going to call for
Can you please say, is that distinction between whether it is disabled or whether it is destroyed?
Can we back up a little bit? Because I just want to explain sort of how an airstrike is prosecuted, right? Because first you have a target in the first place.
Yes.
And a target could be an individual. The target could be a building. The target could be a boat.
Say something.
And so this is why we need, and we talked about this the other night, we need a full investigation. What was the target? Because I thought the target was the drugs. Those are gone if the boat's on fire. Maybe the target is these so-called terrorists.
The target was the boat, according to all of the reporting.
I think we should wait for an investigation to see what the target actually was. If the target was a boat, then we're in this place where we are using military force to target boats. What?
Okay, you don't think that the initial military attack was
legitimate.
legitimate?
Can I make one more point? Because this entire
So it's not even about the second one, right?
entire hypothetical that you're posing hinges on whether or not they could call somebody to be rescued. But if they're in a scenario where they need to call somebody to be rescued, they are shipwrecked. That is the definition of shipwrecked, and they cannot be targeted. That term, as Abby pointed out,
I'm sorry, if the radio is still working on the boat, it is still a legitimate military target.
You cannot just concoct your own explanation for this.
I'm not concocting my own explanation.
I'm just
this
saying,
is the law.
No, I'm saying that literally the law says that attacking shipwrecked individuals in the context of war is not allowed. That is literally what they use. That
shipwreck is no longer a legitimate target because it's no longer a threat.
Is in the document.
We're agreeing.
So I'm just saying
you are agreeing with me.
You are suggesting that if there's any scenario in which maybe they could have called somebody on land, they would have come by boat or helicopter or whatever to help them, then that would have justified attacking them again. I am pretty sure, as Margaret is saying, and as virtually everybody is saying, that is not the case. I will agree with you on one thing. This requires investigation. We need more information. But the basics of
the Republican
situation
are
such that this would be
Roger Wicker says he'll ask it. Roger Wicker says he'll ask more questions.
This is the question.
Right.
Okay,
but I want to go back to
pause. We have more. Okay, we have more ahead, Brad. So hold that thought.
I'm not going to say anything.
Okay, first of all, Donald Trump keeps saying he wouldn't want it. He would not have wanted a second strike. Let's be serious. Even you Trump supporters. He doesn't care, and you also don't care how many strikes it would have taken. He could care less. It's just the fact that it could be a crime, and he could be held accountable for it. It's the reason he's saying that. But in reality, he could care less. He don't care if they blow that boat up 45 times. Come on. You people have no empathy. You have no soul. So don't give me that. He cares. Get out of here. And ask yourself this question, Trump supporters. The man pardoned an actual drug kingpin, so-called / president, former president of Honduras, who was actually flooding the United States with fentanyl and other drugs. He pardons him. But he cares so much about the drug issue. And he's blowing up random boats off the coast of Venezuela. And now off the coast of the Pacific Ocean. Well, in the Pacific Ocean, off the coast. I'm thinking of Mexico, probably. But, these are huge contradictions, people. How do you square this? I know you crazy that 30% of Trump supporters will square anything he does. You'll make up some crazy thing in your mind that this is okay. Right up to that point where one of his decisions kicks you in the butt, takes away your SNAP, your health care, kills your farm. It's all okay. All the evil is okay until it happens to you. Point number 2. Batya. Like I said on another episode, this woman was on Megyn Kelly's show, helping Megyn Kelly a few weeks ago make excuses that it was okay for Epstein and Trump and their cronies to hanging out and fondling and who knows what else with 15-year-olds. 15-year-olds, they're okay. Yeah. It's younger than 15, no, but 15-year-olds. She was helping Megyn Kelly. So that tells you the knots that this woman would twist herself into. She has no shame to apologize for the Trump administration. She would twist herself into the most disgusting knots, apologizing for these people. That is a shame. And it's disgusting. And it's deplorable. So you guys, you deserve that deplorable. I know you always question, like, why do they call us Nazis and deplorable? Because you actually act like Nazis and you're actually deplorable. When you sit up here defending, just blowing up random boats and claiming there's drugs on them, without no evidence, even though it's a good thing they have an actual JAG attorney on here, the redhead, Margaret Donovan. Thank God. So she can, in real time, dispute and fact check Botja's lies. While Botja is just lying and the woman is fact checking her. Thank God she was on there to tell how these situations really go. To let us know how you really go after drug boats. You just don't blow people up. You arrest them, then you prosecute them. And to let us know that if this was an actual drug boat, it would only have a couple people on there. So you have more room for the drugs, which makes absolute sense. Absolute sense. So, once again, watch these right-wing Trump apologists on these shows. They will defend anything. Anything this despicable administration does. So, take their words with a huge grains of salt. Because they're being totally dishonest almost every time. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thanks for watching.